Welcome to 2024, and the car prices are going out of control. New car prices, not the dealership markup, not all that. No, new car prices, MSRPs, are really on the rise, and folks are really concerned about this. It's kind of becoming a trend. In today's video, I want to address some reasons for that some of them are obvious and you will know about them, but some you actually may not have noticed. Let's get started and we'll talk about it. Let's get the first reason out of the way because it is the most obvious and kind of the simple one. Cost of materials. Folks, if you work in other industries, other than the automotive industry, cost of raw materials have gone up significantly since the pandemic and going still into now. So of course, the materials to make the cars have gotten very expensive. The manufacturers have to charge more for these cars that used to cost half in materials what they used to in the past than they do now. That is the most obvious thing, but that actually does not contribute the most to it. Let's get into the second one, which we'll start to see why. The next one is the government. Emission requirements. Folks, in the last few years, there has been a race between the car manufacturers and emission regulations on who can come up with the latest, and they're trying to catch up, and that is causing a wave of change across the automotive industry. See, in the past, there would be a new emission requirement or new kind of direction of emissions, and the companies would come up with new stuff, and we're kind of holding steady for a while, years usually, so the companies can have breathing room and start working on the latest and greatest. But lately, things have been kind of an overdrive. So you notice the slow demise of the V8 engines. You notice everything's being replaced by V6s. You notice the four-cylinder engines are now as powerful as the V6 because they have to. I mean, emission regulations are putting so much strain in the automotive industry. And you know what? It is for good reasons. We got to protect our environment here. But they're causing so much changes to happen very rapidly. You have turbocharging, you have supercharging, you have electric cars and hybrids and plug-in hybrids and all these changes. I mean, that's going to add a lot of complication to a car. First, in the component-wise, but the biggest thing that most consumers don't think about, the R&D, research and development. These companies have to spend sometimes millions to develop a new technology, and usually in the past they would spend the millions, make the new technology, and then they kind of sit idly calm until they recoup that investment. I mean, it's a business. That's just how businesses work. But lately they have to do that almost every year, and they never recoup their investment in this R&D or research and development. So the car prices have to go up because simply cars are getting way too complicated because of the emission requirements. It's just a simple fact. If you want the car manufacturers to be around 10 years from now, this is unfortunately the only way to keep them alive, because something's got to give to keep up with the emission requirements. It is all our fault. Me and you, not just you, me as well. I'll be honest and say it. See, here's the way I see it, and let me explain here. If you look at today, in 2024, if you look at cars from 10 years ago, they feel super outdated and just horrendous. But 10 years ago, if we looked at the cars from 10 years before that, they're actually not that bad. I remember 10 years ago like it was yesterday. My kid was just born, a newborn child. I remember cars 10 years before that. I look at them and I'm like, oh, this is not bad. I mean, it's a nice car, it's a little old, but hey, it's normal. But that's not the case today. We demand so much from car manufacturers that things are getting out of control a little bit. Who's old enough to remember when cars did not have power windows, power door locks, no AC, and even no radio in some cars? That is like almost an insult today if you say it. But that's the problem. Cars have gotten so complicated with features that we demand. Some of them are great, but some of them are completely unnecessary just for the sake of being cool. That's the problem. All this innovation and all this technology and new cars that we demand from car manufacturers, it comes at a cost. And then if you drive cars from 2024, even an average everyday car will have more power and is more stable than sports cars from 15 years ago. Who's going to pay for that? We're demanding all these technologies from car manufacturers, but we want the prices to this thing. That is not realistic, folks. Prices have to come up because cars are becoming supercomputers on wheels. Kind of similar with phones. Who's old enough to remember when fancy phones used to be the flip phone and average Joe used to have a little phone that all it did was make a phone call? Not even text messaging was a thing, just a phone call. You look at smartphones today, they do 1,000 things other than make a phone call, but they also cost a lot more. Same thing with cars. The more things you attach to cars, other than the function of transportation from A to B, the more expensive the cars will be. That used to be the case with luxury cars. But today, everyday car, very basic transportation cars, will put super expensive luxury cars from 10, 15 years ago to shame with technology. But we demand that. And the prices have to go up when we start demanding all these options and all these features. Folks, cars are getting very expensive in 2024. That's the God honest truth. And it's unfortunate that some, unfortunately, can no longer afford to buy a new car. They have to start looking at used cars, and even used cars are expensive as a byproduct of the new cars being more expensive. But certain things we can't do anything about, like emission requirements. We got to protect the environment. And I understand that you can't do anything about. What we can do something about is the asking of features. Speak up. Do we really need all these gizmos in these cars? Some of them are great. Adaptive cruise control, brake hold, all the safety stuff. Great. But things are getting out of control. And you folks gotta speak up. If you don't want the cars to getting so expensive, don't keep demanding all these gizmos that do absolutely nothing in the transportation department on keeping cars simple. I mean, most folks in 2024, if you hand them a car from 20 years ago that has manual windows, no AC, no radio, they will feel offended. I won't, because if you want cheap transportation that takes you from A to B, which is the main purpose of a car, by the way, it has to be something like that. And it's fine to have the fine, cool cars that have all the gizmos, but where is the simple cars for average Joe that can't afford to spend a small fortune on this supercomputer of a base eco box? That's the problem. We don't have, the base models are not base models anymore. They're disappearing. We don't have the car that doesn't have all the gizmos. And that's because we all demand things from auto manufacturers and they have no choice but to do these things. But I hope after watching this video, you start some kind of a voice that bring back the basic car. It's okay. We don't need all these gizmos. Keep cars simple for folks so they can afford them. That's very important, folks, because that's going to be a new problem coming up as cars get even more expensive and as technologies with self-driving cars and all this stuff become more and more. Basically, there's going to be a point where we're all going to be riding the bus because nobody will be able to afford any cars, and that will be a breaking point. Let's not get to that point. Speak up, folks, please. Folks, I hope this video is helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you. And you have yourself a wonderful day.